Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Tonight will be especially for questions. But before hearing any questions, we want to discuss the difference between being attracted to Krishna because of his control and being attracted to Krishna because of his beauty. In speaking to not simply newcomers, but also in speaking to our own devotees, it's amazing how it seems counterintuitive that the supreme source, the ultimate source of everything, is unlimitedly beautiful. How do people conceptualize that? They can't. You can't speculate Krishna into existence. You have to hear about Krishna from authorized sources. This is what the Shastra means when it says Krishna is beyond mental speculation. You can never dream up or mentally concoct someone like Krishna. That's the first reaction I had when I began reading Krishna book, 1972, around the middle of 1972. After a few chapters of reading from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I thought to myself, no one can make this up. I know the strength of the human imagination. I know the power of the human intellect. I studied it with the greatest brains on the planet. But who could ever concoct or create someone like Krishna? So you all may recall that during my university years, I tried to read a Bhagavad Gita, a rendition of Bhagavad Gita, where it said something that would resonate with so many people then and today and in the future. In the scholar's commentary to the verses of Bhagavad Gita, he wrote that Krishna is a concept meant to appeal to both the intellectuals and the sentimentalists. So that would seem, oh yes, Krishna's a concept. His mind could not accept that there can be an infinitely attractive person with a spiritual form beyond time and space, who has associates who cling to him in pure love. So, as the Christian Bible says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. I still remember so many Bible verses. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. But as I always explain, it's not the end of wisdom. Yes, we should fear karmic reactions. We should fear the miseries of material existence. Any intelligent person would have that fear. Only a fool says, oh, I'm not afraid of death. The persons who say that can't even handle old age or disease. What to speak of death? So an intelligent person fears the power of nature. the floods, the droughts, the earthquakes, the lightning. Only a fool would think, oh, life is a walk in the park. The material world is such a nice place for enjoying your senses. You know the story about advice given to various types of persons. One was a prince, and the advice given to him was Rajputra Charanjiva. Oh, son, Putra of the king, live forever. Why live forever? Because his whole life is based on sense gratification. He better hope that there's going to be no end to the body. Of course, you know there will be an end to the body. But with your kind of mentality, your kind of program of just royal sense enjoyment, hope you're going to live forever. So it goes on, and that you don't suffer the reactions. Of course, as we know, the body has an end. And then the advice given to the brahmachari. You can die right now. Why would that be advice given to a brahmachari? Die right now, no problem. Because you've done so many austerities, die and go take your reward in the spiritual world. And the advice given to an advanced devotee is, it doesn't matter whether you live or die. In any aspect of life, in anything that happens, you're serving Krishna. So you're beyond birth and death. And the advice given to a butcher, don't live and don't die. Why should the butcher not live? Because you're piling up horrendous sinful reactions for yourself as a butcher. So better you die so that you stop this horrible sinful activity. But then, remember, for the butcher, don't live and don't die. Well, why not? Why don't die? Because as soon as you give up your body, all those horrendous sinful reactions and bad karma awaits you. So don't live and don't die. But for the sadhu, doesn't matter whether you live or die. Whatever happens, in any situation, you're serving Krishna. So the intelligent person fears the material miseries. I wonder how many of you, before coming to Bhakti, thought about that. I fear material existence. People may think that's the sign of lack of strength, but no, it's a sign of intelligence. Only a fool thinks, just let the good times roll and let my career fulfillment come and that's it. So start out with that kind of intelligence, but then what is the ultimate attraction? So you'll find so many informations of the divine, as they say, involving power and might, control, judgment, creation. But where do you find the infinitely beautiful personality of Godhead? Unconsciously, we are so tainted, as I often explain, with impersonalism, that, well, the blue boy who dances and plays a flute, Is that really the ultimate? It seems so logical to us that the absolute truth is formless, qualityless, activityless, so on. That's greatness. Because we're in-reading into the situation that in my experience, every time I see form, it's temporary. Every time I see qualities, they're temporary. All activities are temporary. So the ultimate must just be, and then you don't know what to say. You just say the whatever. So this is why in so many religions they focus on the Son of God or the prophet, which is good in the sense that the Guru is the messenger of Godhead. But what about that ultimate source, that Godhead? This term, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada inherited or loyally took from his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur, as a defiant definition. You think that the Supreme is impersonal. Well, I say the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How are you going to get around that in terms of personalism? If we just say the Supreme Personality of God, oh yeah, well, whatever, the white light, the all-pervading force, but Godhead, he's saying God's a person? People are so prejudiced in many parts of the world about the word God because they in-read it into it, they in-read so much concoction or so many speculations. So sometimes you can actually agree with the atheists who say, I don't believe in any God. You say, yeah, I don't believe in the God everyone else believes in also. Yeah, we agree with you. We don't believe in anything like that. An old man on a throne. So once you start thinking about Krishna, you're thinking about unlimited beauty. And what is beautiful? Beauty is not an abstract concept. If you say, this girl is beautiful, or this boy is beautiful, why are you saying that? Because of their form, or maybe they're an athlete and because of their strength, or some qualities, some activities. But the greatest lack in the world today is knowledge of Krishna's attractiveness, which can't be speculated. You can't concoct it. That's why Krishna comes himself. In Bhagavatam 10th Canto, Krishna is described as his descent, his coming into the ordinary vision of the world, it's meant to put an end to all speculation, showing his form. Here I am. Why speculate? Take me as I am. It's like if we're having a big discussion, does Shivananda Sain Das here, does he really exist? What's he like? And suddenly he walks in and says, here I am. And then what do we say? No, we get it. Go away, we'd rather speculate. So that is the problem with Krishna that we create. Even when he shows himself and gives knowledge of himself, we don't want to accept it. We're actually subconsciously hardwired toward impersonalism. What happens when you just consider the ultimate source to be impersonal, the white light, the all-pervading energy? Then you have no obligation. Love means obligation, commitment. How do you commit to the white light? How do you commit to the all-pervading energy? You can't. So this is why impersonalism is equated with atheism. It's a roundabout way of avoiding any commitment, any surrender, any relationship. So rather than say, there's no Supreme Personality guidance, you say, there's just the everything. That's a tricky way of saying there's no Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's just the Supreme Everything. And how do you obligate yourself to the Supreme Everything? Leaves you free to do whatever you like, which is the same program that an atheist wants. I don't want any cosmic supervisor. I want to just do what I want to do. Instead of saying that, you say, there's the cosmic everything, the all-pervading energy. And that leaves you free to not feel responsible to anyone. So that was our life before receiving Lord Chaitanya's mercy. At best, in the Western world, we were theists. We believed in God, some of us. Most of us never thought about it. We were what's called apatheists, the combination of apathy and theism. God, never thought about it. It's not on my mind. It's not that you were probably militantly against, but you just, it's just irrelevant. So when Krishna appears, it is historic, it is legendary. It's the most extraordinary thing that happens in the material world because Krishna is showing himself. Here's my form, here's my qualities, here are my activities. I play the flute, I have a threefold bending form. So the more we start thinking about Krishna, the more our speculations come to an end. Otherwise, the tendency is just to speculate on and on and on. Could it be Krishna? I don't know, maybe not. But I just want to be spiritual. Well, how do you be spiritual? Being spiritual means, whatever you feel most natural doing, that's spiritual. You gotta be authentic. That means acting on your, whatever urges come to you. I was explaining somewhere, maybe it was here, the psychological definition of self-determination. Of course, it has a political connotation too. People ruled by other nations say, we want self-determination. But in the psychological use of the term, self-determination means an urge comes to you, you act on it. Strange definition, isn't it? You're being true to yourself. Whatever urge, lower, higher, in between, act on it. So that's the best that this materialistic civilization can offer you. So-called self-determination, and forget about self-realization. So we have this notion in our head that being spiritual means no commitment, no obligation, which means no relationship. Suppose you're thinking it's time that you have a spouse, and the potential spouse says to you, no commitment, no obligation. And what would you say? Oh, okay, that's a great relationship. It is. If you have a half a brain, you never accept that. Someone says, no commitment, no obligation, but relationships mean commitment, obligation. But the Kali Yuga brain is so hardwired to think spirituality just means freedom to do whatever you like. Whereas in Goloka Vrindavan, the highest spiritual realm, everyone is bound by love so much that they can bind Krishna with their love. This is the wonder of Damodar Leela, when Mother Yashoda binds Lord Krishna with rope. Krishna sets everyone free from material existence. But here, Mother Yashoda is binding him up, the one who sets everyone else free. Great paradox. So Goloka Vrindavan, or Boma Vrindavan too, is all about being a prisoner of love. So sometimes you read how the devotees in Vrindavan have bound Krishna. They clap, the older gopis, they clap and ask Krishna, dance, dance, dance. And Krishna dances. They ask little Krishna, when he's a little boy, bring the wooden shoes of your father, Nanda Maharaj. And Krishna goes and puts the wooden shoes on his head and brings them. Then they ask, bring something heavier. They progressively increase the weight of what they're asking for. And little Krishna, he acts like he can't lift the object, so he just, like a wrestler, he slaps his arms. I've done something. He's acting at the behest. He's dancing to the will, acting to the will of his devotees. And his devotees are completely bound to him, imprisoned by love for him. So much so that in Vrindavan, no one thinks that Krishna is God. And as we explained yesterday, even when the cowherd men had that realization, hearing from Nanda Maharaj about how Krishna went to the watery planet of Varuna, and there was treated so reverently by Varuna. So Nanda Maharaj was explaining to them the opulence of Varuna, as if Varuna planet was higher than Vrindavan. Yogamaya has Nanda Maharaj thinking in that way. Oh, the opulence I saw in the kingdom of Varuna. And the prayers, the respect that Varuna was giving to Krishna. Amazing. And what did the cowherd men say? Who remembers? We remember Gargarishi, the priest, doing the Namakarana ceremony, the name-giving ceremony of Krishna. We remember. He said that this boy would be like Narayan. But now, hearing what you just said, Nanda Maharaj, we realize he is Narayan. So then, as we discussed yesterday, they appeal to Nanda Maharaj. Since we have understood that your son is God, and we're all related to you in village relationships, we should be able to ask your son, who we now know is God, for whatever we want. Because after all, we're all related. You and Yashodamai are related in the village to everyone else. So you've got access to God as your son, so do we. We're all related. So Krishna, what did he do? He knew what they were thinking. So he said, oh, ask me for whatever you want. So one cowherd man said, I want liberation. There they are in Krishna Lila, but by the arrangement of Yoga Maya. I want liberation. Another says, I want Vaikuntha. So Krishna commented, it's amazing how my associates are with me in the pastimes I stage in the material world. And they're thinking that they're just some ordinary people. So you might say, why do they think like that? That they're just ordinary people, like those surrounding them. They think like that to make the pastimes sweeter. So they ended up getting an experience, a very brief experience of Brahman, merging into Brahman. Very brief, because that meant the suspension of their rasa with Krishna. Normally you can't come out of Brahman, perfect Brahman merging. But Krishna could bring them out. He brought them in and then took them out. And then showed them Vaikuntha. But whether in Brahman, merged in Brahman, or in Vaikuntha, where is the face of Gopal Krishna, the cowherd boy? So nothing would satisfy the cowherd men until they saw once again Gopal Krishna, the cowherd boy. And then Krishna showed them beyond Vaikuntha, because the cowherd men were longing. Where is Krishna? He's not. We didn't feel any separation or attraction for Krishna in Brahman. And in Vaikuntha, we don't see, that's just Narayan, Lakshmi Narayan in Vaikuntha. Where is Govinda? So Krishna then showed them Goloka Vrindavan. Remember, the cowherd men are in Boma Vrindavan. But by Krishna showing them Goloka Vrindavan, while the cowherd men are in Boma Vrindavan, earthly Vrindavan, the cowherd men realize, look at that. The topmost planet of the spiritual world looks just like where we live. Amazing. So that way Krishna is having fun. So I know I talked more about this pastime yesterday, but it's just on my mind. The irony of it and the fun Krishna has. And the cowherd men in their simplicity. I'll take liberation. Let me see what it's like. I'll take Vaikuntha. And how, even though they knew at that point that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God and not just Nanda, the son of Maharaj Nanda, even though they knew that, their rasa in Vatsalya Prem, parental love of Krishna, didn't weaken by Krishna's arrangement. Hard for us to understand. You would say, look, did they know he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And how could they not be in awe and reverence? They knew, but still. Brajarasa and parental love was there. By hearing, and serving, and of course hearing is part of devotional service, you become attuned to Krishna's beauty. The beauty of his form, and the beauty of the way he has loving affairs with his devotees. These become more and more attractive to you. And gradually, that Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, which covers the Western world especially, impersonalism and voidism, it gradually goes away like a ghost, fleeing when the sun starts to rise. So I wonder how many of you sometimes sit yourself down and think about it. How is it that Krishna is unlimitedly attractive? What is it like to be unlimitedly beautiful? And as you know, Krishna is unlimitedly full of 6 opulences. Therefore the Shastra says, Sadaishvarya Purna. He's unlimitedly full of all 6 opulences. Therefore he gets the title Bhagavan. All 6 opulences: wealth, strength, fame, knowledge, renunciation, beauty. So when I first read Prabhupada's introduction to Krishna book, where he wrote that in all of history, there's never been a person like Krishna. I said, wow. In all of history, there's never been a person like Krishna. So I wanted to find out more about this person who's unlimitedly deep, infinitely deep in all 6 opulences. So when you explain to someone who is Krishna, first you have to know for yourself. I like explaining to people how Krishna is characteristic. One of his characteristics is Swaraja Lakshmi. He has unlimited desires and the unlimited ability to satisfy all of his desires. Have you met anyone like that? So the more we hear about Krishna and strive for hearing about Krishna, and the more that we develop our attraction for Krishna by devotional service, and of course hearing about Krishna is service. Shravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu, hearing and chanting about Krishna is the foundation of all other services. So the more we hear about Krishna, we want to engage in service. And the more we engage in service, we want to hear more about Krishna. And this goes on and on and on. So you may be wondering, what will you be doing in Bhakti the rest of your life? You may be doing this kind of activity or that kind of activity. The activities that you do may change, but you'll always be hearing about Krishna and chanting about Krishna, regardless of the other devotional activities that you do, which can change according to your age and according to circumstances. All right. What happened to the clock? Am I not seeing it?
Sorry, it stopped working.
It stopped working. All right, any questions? No questions? Everyone's thinking of the beauty of Krishna? Yes, Gabby.
how do we not expect Krishna's mercy?
How do we not expect Krishna's mercy?
Yeah, like how do we remain humble enough that like say you've just done like a big yagya for whatever reason, be that on books, be that cooking, like how do we not look for that reciprocation?
The fact that you have service is reciprocation. That's what you're calling out for when you chant Hare Krishna. Please engage me in service. And then Krishna gives you service and you say, oh, where's the mercy? What are you looking for?
I don't know, it's like, I guess feeling or like bliss or like, yeah, I'm not sure, but just something kind of like, wow, I don't know. Yeah.
That's there, but first, develop steadiness. I just thought of an example. Should I say it? Someone who's looking for a serious relationship meets someone who just says, I just want to feel the bliss. I just want an emotional, explosion. That's all. What serious person looking for a spouse would take that seriously? You might appreciate the person's honesty, but if you're responsible and sober and sane, you would know, well, sorry, you're not the one. But we do that with devotional service. We kind of bring the sense gratification mentality. Krishna, just give me an explosion of bliss. Give me a high. But a real devotee renders service to Krishna and doesn't put a railway schedule up to Krishna. Krishna, okay, I've been serving all day now. Where's my bang? A real devotee doesn't do that. Where's my burst of bliss? You owe it to me, because I, for 3 hours, was in the kitchen. I was out on book distribution all Saturday. Or I gave this amount of donation. All very wonderful activities. But Krishna is independent. And he wants to teach you what real love is. But we impose our conceptions. Okay, I think I've served sufficiently. Now, where is the reaction from Krishna? Krishna, when are you going to show up? I've got my railway schedule, and you haven't come on time. But meanwhile, look at what's happening to you. Look at the transformation that Bhakti brings. Shining face. Radiant with knowledge. Master of your mind and senses. At least that's the goal. So the miracle is already happening. The sequences of bhakti that you go through, the phases are described by Rupa Goswami. Adau Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha. The phases through faith, to association with devotees, to being free from anarthas or the unwanted tendencies, to being fixed, to irrevocably to getting a taste, ruchi, and attachment, asakti, and bhava, preliminary stage of love of Krishna, then praying. So the career steps are all mapped out. But we're very impatient. Yes, you can go back to Krishna in one lifetime. If you make devotional service your life and soul. But you may say, well, what if I don't make it in this lifetime? Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, Suchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Brashta Vajayate. You take birth, guaranteed as a human being, but not only as a human being, but in a family of very pious Brahmana types, or a family of very wealthy. And if you've actually served Krishna for a long time in this birth, in your next birth you take birth in a family of devotees. So it's a can't-lose situation. What do you lose except your chains by engaging in Krishna's service? Your chains of repeated birth and death. In your next life, in a wealthy family, you don't have to worry about economic affairs. You can focus completely on your spiritual development. Or you take birth in a family of very pious persons who are inclined towards Vedic knowledge. But the rarest birth, as Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, is to take birth in a family of devotees. But in all those situations, you can blow your opportunity. There's so many wealthy persons who have nothing to do with bhakti. That's the allurement of wealth, that you've become caught up in princely or princess-like sensuality, royal opulence. Even you can take birth in a family of devotees, and at least for some time, maybe decades, just take it for granted. Sometimes children of devotees, they tell their parents, especially when teenage years come, and you came to bhakti after being burned out, so we got to get burned out too. Say like that. We got to come to it our own way, just like you did. But you have such an advantage. You were born in a family of devotees. From the very beginning, you heard about Krishna. Even you were conceived with Garbhadan Samskar, all the proper rituals of conception. But the son or the daughter will tell you, that all may be true, but I gotta come to it my way. And the parents are bewildered. We did everything right. We conceived this child in Krishna consciousness properly. Brought the child to the temple all the time. And now the teenage years or the 20s are there. So maybe the child doesn't manifest his or her previous bhakti until 50 or 60 years old. At which time the parents aren't around anymore to see the victory. They're just thinking, oh, well, we tried our best, and maybe sometime in the future the child will be a devotee. And the parents leave this world and they don't see that. Maturely, that is, they don't see that the child, 50 or 60, finally revived his or her dormant bhakti. These things happen. There are other examples of devotees being born in a family and recalling their previous birth as devotees. And telling the whole history of their previous birth. So my point is that Krishna's mercy is there. We just have to open our eyes with vision of knowledge. Just like an owl. Do they have owls in New Zealand? No. Yes? I know there's an owl farm somewhere just up north, isn't there? Yes? Huh? Which town is that in? Oh, it's Shannon. Yeah, the famous Shannon.
It's not there anymore.
Oh, it's not there anymore. They moved it? Or they closed it down?
The owner got cancer.
Owls hate the sun in that they close their eyes in sunlight. And at night, they hold forth at night. So don't be like an owl. Krishna's mercy is all around, but we have to learn to see that. Anything else? Yes.
I don't feel very qualified to ask a question. You're talking about relations, building relation with Krishna and that reciprocation, and when we're chanting, we're building that. If we feel that our heart is, I guess in the book it said somewhere about having a heart of stone. So if you feel that is like that for you, how do we sort of make ourselves open or soften the heart to
Humble service to the devotees breaks the hard stone-like heart. Some or others serve the devotees. Material existence means everyone should serve you. But spiritual life means everyone's a servant. To be a servant of Krishna is so extraordinary that even Krishna himself wants to be a servant of Krishna. So he comes as his own devotee, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to engage in devotional service, and of course in the highest understanding, to taste love of himself in separation. So always, if you want to break up those rocks, those boulders in the heart, always look for an opportunity to serve devotees and serve with devotees, both. On your own, you'll make a little progress. But it's so easy to be overwhelmed by the waves of Maya when you're on your own. And the days and nights pass by very quickly. In the fourth canto, you've read the fourth canto? Where there's Chandavega. His very name means passing swiftly. Chandavega has 720 soldiers, the days and the nights. 360 days and 360 nights. So King Chandravega attacks the material body. But we're so foolish we don't take it seriously, the passing of the days and nights. And how our life is dwindling. So we think we have so much time. But when we're present with devotees, we get realizations that come to the fore of our consciousness. we get a taste for hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna, engaging in Krishna service. So if you want to lift your game, go to a higher level, then seek out the association of devotees who are advancing, who are progressive. Somehow or other, seek out that association. Yes.
Hare Krishna Gurudev. Sometimes Krishna allows us to get some realization, but it seems that these realizations don't always stay with us. Very often we can forget them quickly, even though we might intellectually remember them. The realization itself has left. And I was wondering, is there a way to keep these realizations, or?
Well, you can always keep a journal. What do you think?
I'm not sure if that will.
If you write something down, you can always look back at it in the future.
It just seems like it's not quite as vivid as in the moment.
Depends on you're writing it down. You'll try it, you'll see. Don't be so quick to, it won't work. That's what you're telling me, it won't. Keep notes of your life, of what you're reading. Be scientific about recording your progress. And you'll be able to see by consulting your Bhakti journal. Didn't I feel like this last year? When I thought, where is Krishna's mercy? I'm not getting it. And then I had the realization that I should open my eyes spiritually and see Krishna's mercy all around. I've already been through this last year. So that's the advantage of keeping notes about your spiritual progress. Another way is just share the realizations with others, and that way the realizations become more memorable for you. And the best way is to distribute those realizations, teach them to others, have mercy on others. That's what Lord Chaitanya has asked us to do. Wherever you go, whomever you meet, teach the science of Krishna.
Did you want us to keep the Zoom going?
All right, we can end our public session. Hare Krishna.